Welcome back, design students. In this video, we're going to create the button and the stitching for the eyes, and we're also going to create the little mouth piece. So let's get started. Let's start with a cylinder, and then we're going to take this cylinder and move it up and scale it down. So after we scale it, we're going to get the rotate tool and make sure step snapping is turned on, and rotate it 90 degrees so it's facing forward. And then let's go to that Lambert material that is on everything, all the mesh objects in the scene, and let's adjust the transparency so that we can see through our mesh again. And then let's switch to the front viewport and move it into place, center it on the eye, and get the scale tool and scale it down in the X and Y axes only, because we don't want it to get any thinner. And now before we go any further, we need to add some geometry and make sure that we have enough edges on this thing to do what we want to do. So go to the Polycylinder 1 node and make sure that your subdivisions in the axis are 16, and there's a reason for that. And then we're going to give it 3 cap segments. So we're going to switch to the perspective view and move the button out from the face, and maybe we can make it a little thinner using the scale tool if it needs to be. And we're going to switch to edge mode, and we want to double click this inner edge here on both sides. Hold down shift and double click the inner edge on the other side. Then switch back to the front view, and we want to move this edge out a little bit, and we need to use the scale tool to do it. But if you notice, the scale tool is not in the center anymore, and if I were to scale this now, it would mess it up. So I need to move the scale tool to the center. To do that, you hold down D on your keyboard, and that allows you to move the pivot point. So I'm going to recenter the pivot point and then move this edge out a little bit. I'm going to move this edge out a little bit too, so I'm going to switch back to the perspective view and grab that one on the back side and hold down shift and grab that one on the front side. Go back to the front view and scale this one out a little bit. Then we're going to switch to vertex mode, and we're going to grab that vertex and make sure symmetry is turned off for this. Hold down shift and grab that one, and then we're going to skip 3, grab the next one, skip 3, and grab the next one. That's why we put the 16 segments around here, so we could have these evenly spaced with 3 vertices between each selection. And then we're going to hold down shift, right click, and select chamfer vertex. And this is what we did when we made the holes for our peg toy. It's the same process. I think maybe 0.65 is good. So grab this vertex and this one, and grab these top vertices here, and we're going to use the scale tool to bring them in just a little bit, like so. And then we're going to need to insert some edges here so we can further round this thing out, just like we did for the holes in the peg toy. So in order to make this work, I'm going to switch to object mode, and I'm going to hide everything else in the scene so the rabbit mesh doesn't get in my way. So I'm going to switch to object mode and select the button and go to display and hide unselected. And now everything in the scene is hidden except for the button. And then I'm going to hit F on my keyboard to focus on the button. And I'm going to go to the Lambert material and adjust the transparency back up so it doesn't look confusing. And we're going to have to cut some edges using the multi-cut tool. Remember, if you hold down Shift, that will insert a vertex right in the middle, and then we go to the edge here and push Enter to accept that. Shift, click on the other vertex, Enter. Shift, Shift, click on the other vertex, Enter. I'm just going to have to do that for every one of these on both sides. And I'm not going to make you watch me do that. So when I'm done with it, I'll just come back and we'll continue on to the next step. So now I've got all my edges cut. Looks like I accidentally cut one here. If that ever happens to you, you can simply select that edge and hold down Shift, right click, and select Delete Edge. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is delete these polygons. But before we do that, we're going to make these holes circular. Now to do that, you simply select the vertices that surround the hole. And there's a really great tool up here in your poly modeling shelf called Circularize. And if you click it with those selected, it simply makes a circle. And let's do that for each one of these. I don't know how many you can select at once. Let's see if we can do more than one hole. Yes. And then do the same thing for the back side. And now we can delete the polygons. Switch to face mode. Grab the faces inside the new holes that you made and delete them on both sides. And then we simply bridge the edges. Just like we did for the peg toy. Switch to edge mode, double click on one edge, hold down Shift, double click on the other edge. Shift, right click, bridge. And now we simply need to bridge all the edges like we've done before. Double click the top one, Shift, double click the next one, hold down Shift, right click, and select bridge. Now if this happens to you, you need to change one of these to minus. Which one? I don't know, but that's what you need to do. Once you have all your edges bridged, we can finish this by extruding here to create a little lip around the button. So we're going to go to face mode, select one face on the edge, hold down Shift, double click on the face next to it to select that whole edge face loop around the edge here, and then we're going to hold down Shift, right click, and we're going to extrude these faces maybe 0.025, like so. Your number might be different, and then I'm going to select both of these face loops and extrude them out as well. Actually, I'm going to do one at a time here, just so I can use the Move tool holding down Shift, use the Move tool. It's just a little easier sometimes to me than using the Extrude function. And if your button needs to be thinner, then you can simply switch to vertex mode, grab all these top vertices on one side and just move it down like so. That'll make your button thinner. So that is how you create the button, and when we smooth the button, it looks pretty good. I might want a control loop here on the inside. So I'm going to undo smoothing and grab this inner edge here. Grab this edge all the way around, but I have to double click on it in segments. And then to insert a control loop, I can simply bevel this edge. I'm going to hold down Shift, right click, and bevel this edge just a very little bit. And give it 2 segments. And now when we smooth it, we don't lose that hard edge there. That took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, so in the next video we will do the stitching, and I'll see you then.